what's going on? You are listening to TWIG, otherwise known as This Week in Geek, the flagship of stupidity. I'm, of course, Mike, the Birdman Duh, but I'm not alone as I trek across the internet and lands beyond. And I am joined with...
Alex.
So, yes, guys, we are back here. It is yet another podcast for your ears to download, percolate, listen to wherever the hell you are on the big blue marble this week. And, I got to start the show on kind of a serious note, which is something I'm not comfortable doing, simply because, well, it's kind of hitting rather close to home in this particular instance, though it's not relating to me directly, so allow me to explain. A couple of months ago, a family member very, very close to me and Blair was sick, and over the past couple of months, they've been going back and forth to Toronto, doing all sorts of various tests and whatnot, and over the past week and a half, some of those tests have come back, and the news is about as unfortunate as you can make it, unfortunately, and to say this family member is extremely sick and it's terminal. Without putting too fine a point on it, they've been given months to live, and what that means for me and what that means for the show. I've been asked, obviously, by my family to support Blair in any way I possibly can. Alex, you've asked me to do the exact same. So what that means for me... if you follow my Facebook and Twitter, I tend to post things. I've been trying to keep it pretty light over the last few days, but you'll notice there'll be some moments where something inevitably sneaks through. So there may be times where I may disappear, either entirely from social media and from the show for a little while to deal with stuff. I'm sure when things get down to the wire, I will let more people in as to what's going on and kind of reveal exactly what's happening. But there may be basically, I may have to abruptly cancel things over the next few months to see what happens with all this. I'm trying to remain as optimistic as I can because I fully believe this person can fight back. I've heard of worse prognoses and they've lived. But considering the test results, you have to confront reality. But I am the eternal optimist, as I've been called before. So, with that in mind, thoughts and prayers are always appreciated. Good vibes to be sent our way, especially to Blair and her family, as we face rather the unknown, as we don't know what's going to happen. So, with that aside, let's do the show I was planning on doing a week ago, and let's get back to having some fun here. So, over the last week or so, outside of dealing with the aforementioned problem, I got access to Gears of War 5, so big thanks to Microsoft for that. We've been playing a lot of that. Actually, Blair's been watching me play a lot of Gears of War 5's multiplayer, so that may be our new go-to game. She used to watch me play a lot of Titanfall. So this is her go-to-sleep to gunfire game right now, or chainsawing people in half. It's particularly fun as Dave Bautista yes. When Dave Bautista dropped last night into the game, it was kind of weird seeing Dave Bautista and Linda Hamilton on the same team fighting Terminators.
You know how it should have been? It should have been at a specific time that, like, a big pillar of light hits in the sky and he does, like, a Superman jump and lands on the ground, picks somebody up and Bautista bombs them, and that's how, and, like, every single person playing saw that happen in real time. So it would have been like he came from the heavens. But, you know, it sort of was there. You know, well, like you know how they used to do it with, like, MMOs when they would do big changes. They would have, like, a world event. It should have been a world event where he just shows up.
Well, it was weird because I couldn't find him for the longest time. He's buried in a menu. He doesn't even get his own character model per se. He's a skin of Marcus Phoenix. But that's the character he wants to play if he gets the Gears of War movie. He wants to play Marcus. So I'm thinking, okay, that makes a sort of sense. But I was like, yeah. I just wanted to be able to select Dave Bautista. I wanted it to be like...
Did you notice? It's not Dave Bautista. It's Batista, his wrestler name. because it's sponsored by WWE.
It's weird to see how much promotion Gears 5 is getting.
It's
like
Gears
Terminator,
5, also known as the Terminator WWE Batista game.
Yeah, sponsored by Rockstar Energy Drinks. It's so weird, but hey,
it just needs
works.
Mountain Dew and Doritos to be the next video game awards.
I wonder if they'll announce something at the Video Game Awards. I think it just got announced in the last couple days. Jeff Keighley's awards are going to happen sometime in early December, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't remember. I see a lot of things on Twitter. A lot of it, frankly, fucking stupid. Man, I love election time. Brings out all sorts of weirdos, but we're not talking about that today.
Correct. Or I because I don't usually watch live TV unless I'm like at home specifically watching something like wrestling or something. I don't really see it, but I was at my grandparents' or my grandmother's house earlier, and it was like every other ad was like a conservative attack ad. I don't remember that happening like in days of yore in Canada. Like it was usually like you might have like one or two attack ads, but mostly it was like, here's what the other guy's doing, here's what we're doing. But I've noticed like this now that the campaign's rolling, every third ad is like a full blown American attack ad, which I've never seen before. I thought there was a law against that, like because they're not even showing the facts. Like they're just like so and so did this, and they're like showing a headline of an article, but not showing where you can find that headline. I'm like,
or even what year it's from.
Yeah, I'm like some of it's like somebody said this thing 25 years ago. And by the way, here's 3 words from that paragraph that they said, not in the same sentence, put together as a headline.
Yeah, like, it's so bloody stupid. And we're pretty left-leaning on this podcast. Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Exactly. Left-leaning, or at least center-left for sure.
But it is getting nuts, and I've seen some real whoppers come out of the woodwork over the last couple weeks.
Sometimes it's family members that you weren't expecting. Sometimes it's people you grew up with that you're like, why are you now so different?
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm facing that right now. I wish I could name names, but this person, man, there is a reason why you are single and alone. Holy shit, you incel fucking weirdo.
I thought incels were people that never had women, not people that did and then no longer have them. But that seems to be what the main thing is now. It's like I'm bitter because it's like if you complain as much as some of these people do about women and they're divorced, it's like you realize that you're probably the reason you're divorced now, and it's not the other person if you're like this.
Plus, if you're sharing Fox News articles, you're probably not that well informed to begin with.
Or if your entire Facebook feed is entirely like conservative ads, like not anything else. It's like all either attack ads or it's like, see what these immigrants are doing. And like I have a family member who's not even living in this country, living in Asia, and they're posting stuff about the conservative government here. I'm like, you haven't lived in this country in 25 years. You don't even know what's happening.
Exactly. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's like, oh, how about all these immigrants? I'm like, you're an immigrant in that country, and you can't even come back to this country because you've been away so long you'd have to reapply.
Dumbass.
And it's like, oh, are you complaining that you can't come back? Oh, maybe you should pay, your student, loans that you fled the country from 20 some odd years ago. Literally, you fled the country to go work in like China to teach English because you didn't want to pay your student loans, and then now you're like, well, now you're a fugitive. It's like, well, yeah, because the
OSAP cop's gonna get him.
OSAP and tax evasion, that'll get you every time. But it's like, but no, apparently it's all the other immigrants' problems.
Oh yeah,
it's like, oh, how dare they? It's like, you haven't lived in the country. You don't like their. It's funny seeing their view of what's happening in Canada is like our view, or like the world's view of what's happening in America without living there. So we only see what we see, and what we see is all propaganda, when reality is people are people. People are generally nice. Even though people, like, the perception of America in like other countries is all they're loud, obnoxious, horrible people, and it's like, no, people individually are for the most part awesome. They're just normal, good people. But that's not what the media makes you see.
If I had to give one piece of advice in this election time, specifically if you're Canadian and even if you're American, media literacy. What does that mean? That
True.
means being able to get your news from multiple sources, trustworthy sources, and vetting those. Because each side, left or right, will have a bias. And that's just how newsrooms work. It's finding where's the truth in the middle of all this, because it's how the old anecdote goes. Two people will tell you a story, somewhere in the middle is the actual truth of all that.
If you want to aggregate your news, and I mean, let's say there's a topic that you hear about, rumor, hearsay, and you're seeing it on one news site, the best way to get is generally 4 to 5 sources now, and it's not hard. It's just a click of a button. You know what? You hear about something, you see something on Facebook, you know what, you look it up. Look it up on CBC for one, because there's the government one. They're going to have might have a leaning stance or whatever. Traditionally, they were left leaning. They're more central now. Go with, CBC News. Go with an independent news site like CTV or your local newspaper. Go, if it's an international type story, you get those two. Go with BBC. BBC generally, when they're reporting about things outside of the UK, are very unbiased. It's just sort of straight as the facts. You can go with Al Jazeera, which is the English language one for the Middle East. And again, they're going to have maybe a different perspective. But again, if it's not a political based post and it's about whatever other news or whatever other things happening, you're going to find that it's probably more neutral because they don't have a horse in the race. And then as a final one, pull up an American one like the Associated Press, where it's an aggregate of independent press people.
Absolutely. And
it sounds like a lot, but it takes you like 2 minutes to be informed instead of making stupid, voicing your own stupid opinion without being informed. You'll spend 10, 15, 20 minutes arguing about something you don't even know about when it would only take you 2 minutes to figure out the truth.
Exactly. Basically, the takeaway we want you from this: be informed, be intelligent, and be able to make up your own. He said, be open-minded to information you don't have. With all that in mind.
Yeah, don't go into things with a preconceived notion that you're trying to make everything fit into.
Exactly. Like, you have to go outside your own echo chamber to find out what is going on. So, with that in mind, that's our little rant and news for the top of the show. But what have we got coming up this week?
Make sure you go vote.
Rick Mercer said it best. He says, do something that will scare the hell out of the people living in this country. If you are between the ages of 18 and 25, go and vote. Show those in power that you have the power, or something along those lines. But anyway, in this show, we have stuff coming up from Vinegar Syndrome, Nintendo, and who's the other game by?
It is NASCAR. So it's the licensed NASCAR. NASCAR Heat 4 on the Xbox.
Okay, so we'll be taking a look at a lot of video games in this particular episode, particularly a high-level release from Nintendo, and of course our good friends over at Vinegar Syndrome. In the news this week, we got a lot of lawsuits to talk about, but we also have a champion 20-plus years in the making, so much more weird stuff. Have you ever heard of an emotional support clown? Now you have. We'll be back, guys, we'll be back right here on TWIG, the flagship of stupidity.
Have a new interesting release from Vinegar Syndrome called Decoder. It's a German punk rock expressionist, strange, avant-garde 80s sci-fi, if that makes any sense. Basically, if you think of the character of, was it Dieter from Saturday Night Live, played by Mike Myers, that sort of, that if that evokes any thoughts of what the theme or look would be, that's sort of it. So I'll give you the rundown of the film. I really enjoyed it. So here's the basic plot. FM has discovered something incredible in the monotonous music played through the fast food restaurant. Basically, it's a made-up fast food restaurant's speaker system. The tracks have like subliminal messages in them of complacency, consumerism. Think a little bit like They Live. When you put the glasses on, you can see all the subliminal messages. It's that sort of thing. Just discovers that it's embedded in the audio itself. A little bit Videodrome-like as well. So it's sort of teeters on the edge of German expressionist film that way. The film is pretty influential in that it influenced a lot of things like future punk, consumerist, sci-fi paranoia type films of the late 80s, like They Live. And it's actually it holds up pretty darn well. It was directed by an art film director that's done a few things that I personally haven't heard of, but I'm going to have to check out in the future. It was from 1984. It's in full screen. A lot of German films and European films were during this time, so they didn't choose to crop it or do anything weird with it. It's 86 minutes long. You get a DVD and Blu-ray with the two-sided packaging, so you can change the artwork to suit your liking, which is pretty cool. It's been restored from the original 16mm film, which is great because any other release that was released previously would have been like a VHS from like a TV copy and would have looked like utter crap. And this is, pretty darn pristine. It has a lot of neon colors, a lot of, stark Dutch angles, and a lot of the classic German expressionist lighting that you're used to seeing in like old black and white silent films, only brought up to modern day in quotes as of the 80s in color. And I could see it influencing a lot of the goth movement as well that was happening around that time. So, there's other special features included. You got Sound as a Weapon, which is a brand new interview with the writer, producer, and I'm not even going to butcher the name because it's just too... I am a German Italian, and some of these names are just too difficult for me to say, unfortunately. But you have an audio commentary from a German film critic, which is cool. I ended up listening to most of that, and it was pretty insightful as well, so it's worth checking that out. There's archival audio interviews from when they were promoting the film initially. You have excerpts from Pirate Tape, which is a filmmaker and William S. Burroughs on the set. You've got video footage from the 1982 Berlin riots, which partially influenced the way this film was going and about how society and consumerism and a bunch of other stuff. You got stills gallery, locations then and now, so you get to see how so much has changed since the fall of the Berlin Wall and just how much Europe has changed over the years in the last 35 years or so. You have the original film trailer, a mini documentary. There is reversible cover art, like I had mentioned, and there's brand new English subtitles. And the film is easy enough to follow because it follows a lot of German films where there's not a whole ton of dialogue. It's more show me, don't tell me. And that works in this case because it means you don't have to read as much. And even if you didn't have subtitles, you could sort of get an idea of what's happening. And if you're a big film buff, it's worth checking out. If you're somebody who doesn't like subtitles, unfortunately, doesn't have a dub, so don't expect that. But that being said, I do think it's a pretty cool release and it's worth checking out. It's got a retail MSRP of about $25. You're probably going to find it for a little less than that on Amazon or Walmart. So it's worth checking out. It comes with a really cool slipcover as well.
Need a new weapon in your battle against evil? Check out LibrisArcana.com for Canada's premier RPG dice subscription service. For only $7.97 Canadian with free shipping. You can get a new complete set of role-playing dice from D4s to D20s delivered straight to your door. Dice themes are new each month and can be anything your mind can imagine and beyond. Visit LibrisArcana.com and subscribe for only $7.97 Canadian with free shipping, and be prepared to open up new worlds of adventure.
News on the march!
And welcome back to TWIG, the flagship of stupidity. I'm, of course, Mike the Birdman Dodd, joined with Alex the producer. Let's break things that happened on the Big Blue Marble this past week and shall forever be written into the history books that will likely be rewritten in a couple hundred years anyway. So who's counting? Okay, so let's start things off with something a little bit serious, if you will. And this is a fairly recent story. The story just broke today. And, this comes courtesy of CBC. Best Buy, Staples, London Drugs, and I think Canada Computers are being sued by Super Channel in Canada for allegedly selling pirate devices and educating customers in how to use them to watch TV without paying for it. In a court document filed in federal court this week, Super Channel accuses Best Buy, Staples, Canada Computers, and London Drugs for copyright infringement, claiming their employees are urging customers to pirate online content using streaming devices sold in store.
Okay, you know what? I read the article. For anybody in the States that doesn't know, and I would say about 90% of Canadians that have no idea what Super Channel is, Super Channel is the distant, and I mean distant, second place to HBO / the Movie Network in Canada as a premium cable channel that you pay like $20 a month for. They license a few American things like from TNT and whatever channels we don't have, and then try to repackage it as like premium cable. And they produced a couple Canadian shows, but very, very little. They're not even a spec. They're not stars. They're not like epics or anything. They're not even close to that. Like, we're talking, there's maybe 10,000 people that subscribe to them. Like, it's so ridiculously low. They survived a very long time on government life support by getting grants because HBO / the Movie Network was not allowed to have a monopoly on the premium cable thing. So they were getting a ton of money that way. Well, the CRTC changed a lot of stuff a few years ago about how they fund, and they lost some of their funding. So now they're merging with Crave and I think another service as well. Well, anyway, so they're a channel that nobody wants, nobody cares about, arguing that people are using it to pirate their shows that they don't own. They license shows from other channels in the States, and they own a couple things, and they show a few movies that whatever the Movie Network doesn't have up here. Now, the funny thing from this is I know what they're trying to get at. They're trying to get at when you go and buy a Android box, and it would come with, preloaded from China, a bunch of streaming sites that would then pull the episodes immediately after they air on a channel. What they don't do is those channels don't pull live video. There are ones that you can, pay for a service to share video. There are things out there that do that, but these devices don't. They're trying to argue that they're stealing their viewers for episodes that have already aired. Well, no, their ratings are only based on live to air programming. So that's already wrong. And it's all depending on what the judge is going to see. Secondly, the things that when you go to like a Canada Computers or a Walmart and they were talking about those Android boxes, first of all, Walmart sells like one Android box. There's like nothing there. So I have no idea what they're talking about that way. Canada Computers and other stores like Best Buy and that may have a few Android boxes that you can buy. But the ones that are retailing at those stores, even Canada Computers, they do not have the Chinese piracy software preloaded on them because they're from reputable sources. It's ones from Amazon, but they can't go after Amazon because what the hell are they going to do against Amazon? They can't stop the Chinese manufacturers from flooding the gates with that stuff. So they're trying to go after retail stores that have
one of the weirdest ones. I was surprised to see London Drugs on here.
Apparently, well, because they were selling their stuff online, and they're small enough they think they can take them on. There's no way they could take Amazon on. I'm going to be like, no, don't care. Like, and the other thing is, I have been at stores where people have asked, like, how do I get video? The most of the time when they're telling you free video, they're not telling you to even how to pirate or to get, free streams of Super Channel, let alone even CTV or Global. What they're telling you how to get a lot of times is programming from overseas that you can't get here, that isn't even licensed here, and it's like free to air stuff. So, for instance, if you had a satellite dish, you could pick up free soccer games or football games or cricket or your like Hindi news channels and stuff over in India. That's what they want to get. The majority of the people that buy these devices are buying them so they can watch their native country's programming that is already freely available through official streaming sites. And that's what they're telling. I've even listened to the audio that was quoted on the site. It was telling them how to get free episode streams through actual apps that are legit. They weren't telling them how to circumvent copyright, but they're trying to argue it because there are devices that do that, and they just want to point a finger at somebody as to why their business is failing. Their business is failing because their channel sucks and it's not worth $20 a month.
Well, the Super Channel allegedly has over 100 hours of undercover video gathered by private investigators. And there is some audio that was provided to the CBC, which Alex just mentioned. Allegedly, Super Channel CEO Don McDonald says he was shocked when he viewed the footage. The video captures more than 150 incidents supporting Super Channel's case. He said that the employees involved promoting these devices range from floor staff to higher ups. The managers that are not kids, they're in their 30s and 40s telling people how to do it. It is rampant. Why would store staff assist customers? In the court document, Super Channels alleges the motive is to encourage and increase the sale of pirate devices. Now, they are seeking...
The problem is it's not a pirate device. Any device can be used for piracy. But how they're going to screw this up in court is by stating that the sole purpose of these devices is to pirate video, which... if that's your personal use, if that's what you want to do for it, that's fine. But that's not how they're marketed. That's not how they're sold. And all those cases, there are cases probably individual where somebody said, yeah, you can do that. All you have to do is sign up for this. Okay. Fine. Like if you want to use that argument, it would be like the TV companies years ago saying, or even movie companies being like, oh, how dare you sell a VHS machine and explain how to tape your favorite show off TV?
Now, this is not the first time this has actually happened, because back in 2016, Bell, Rogers, and Videotron, which is, I think, out of Quebec, launched a legal battle in federal court.
Yeah, Videotron is the Quebec version.
So they went after smaller dealers who sell Android boxes preloaded with software used to pirate content. So the case is still ongoing. The list of defendants has gone from 5 in 2016 to more than 130 now.
And those would be individual. Those would be like individual mom and pop computer stores, online stores, where they're taking the Chinese boxes and preloading it. And at that point, you have turned it into a dedicated piracy device. So they'll lose. The other big difference here is Super Channel was going bankrupt multiple times. They're worth like pennies on the dollar. You and I could own them in like a couple of years if we really wanted to. So I'm not even joking. Like they had like subscriberships in like the under 50,000 for their channel. And they're at a point now where they're grasping at straws. Rogers, Bell, and Videotron are worth like 50, 60, 70 billion dollars. Whoever they take on, they could take on Amazon and be like, remove all those Chinese boxes. And they would, because they are the media. They own the cable lines, they own the internet lines, they own the TV production channels, they own the movie studios, they own the distribution network, they own the rights to everything. So if their case is still in court years later, there is no way that Super Channel has any chance of being able. They'll go bankrupt before this case actually finishes.
Super Channel estimates they're losing about $12 million a year from subscribers who turn to piracy. McDonald says he hopes the lawsuit will help change the culture of piracy by sending a message that it's not acceptable. This affects our business, and it is wrong to do. If we can even start to make a dent in this from an awareness point of view, then we're on the right track. Maybe you should change so people don't pirate, make the content more accessible. Just saying.
You know what? $12 million a year? That's nothing. To be honest,
that's a drop in the bucket. Because
think about that. It's $12 million. Now, that's a year. Divide that by 12 months. So that's $1 million a month they say they're losing, right? So you divide that by $20. 50,000 subscribers in a country of 35 million. To give you an idea, HBO has 1 million subscribers in Canada.
Wow.
So when I say like a distance, like they're done. Like he's saying this so they're doing this so they can try to stop hemorrhaging money, but they won't get anything done. Like the problem is they don't have any programming, to be honest, that anybody wants from them. The things that people might pirate from them would be like the TNT channel that we do not have in Canada, that they have programming from. They don't own that programming, so it should be TNT coming after them, not a channel that licenses their stuff that nobody wants anyway. So it's if anybody should be mad, it should be HBO, because I guarantee you a lot of those devices were bought to watch Game of Thrones. And even then, I think even less of them this year were bought, because this is the year that HBO launched service in Canada where you could pay like $10 or $20 a month to get it. So I'm willing to bet that a vast majority of people that maybe would have traditionally pirated the show or their programming were willing to spend $30 to watch, a month and a half worth of it.
Yeah, because HBO has been available in Canada for a while. It used to be able to get a lot of the HBO original programming on the movie networks. But and now you can just get it.
Exactly. So we're at a point now where it's cheaper to get the content than it's ever been. So people aren't really pirating as much as they used to, at least in Canada. Like there are still going to
or spend the few bucks and go to iTunes after it airs.
Yeah, and most people have busy lives. The live viewing thing is not as huge as it once was. There is still the occasional, like, you have to watch a sports game, a pay-per-view, or like a Game of Thrones where it's like, water cooler talks type stuff. But even then, for the most part, if you wait till midnight, you can have it so that you pre-order it on iTunes and it'll download to your device and you've got it for $2.
Yeah. So moving on to our next story. This one's a bit of a... This one, I don't like how this went down. If you remember a while back, a guy swatted another individual over $1.50. They were playing Call of Duty World War II. So Casey Viner, an Ohio gamer who fatally swatted another player, was swatted to 15 months in prison for hiring someone to make a prank emergency call to the police that led to the fatal shooting. Viner is also banned from gaming for 2 years. So this guy is 19, and he was upset over losing $1.50 in COD. So he hired someone to make this prank phone call. So this led to the death of 28-year-old Andrew Finch in Wichita, Kansas back in April. Viner pled guilty to felony charges of conspiracy and obstruction of justice as Viner tried to hide his involvement in the crime during the investigation. Viner's lawyers recommended 2 years probation, but NBC reported that the U.S. District Judge Eric Melgren sentenced Viner to 15 months of prison plus a 2-year ban on gaming activities. The guy that he hired was a guy named Tyler Ray Barris, who Viner hired to make the call, was sentenced in Kansas for the fatal swatting incident for 20 years in prison. So the guy who actually made the swatting happen got a much heavier sentence than the guy who hired him. This, in my opinion, is like hiring a hitman. If you are conspiring to hurt somebody by using a SWAT team, you're expecting some sort of physical reaction to happen. I'm not saying you're expecting them to necessarily die, but the intent to hurt and harm is definitely there. 15 months is way too fucking lenient. This should be an automatic 3 to 5.
Yeah, we talked a bit about this before air, and the reason you were like, why did they just give him like life or whatever? It's like because you can't prove that the intent was to kill, and there was there's nothing. If he wrote down on a piece of paper or they traced this thing, he's like talking to friends or something, or if they traced him to like 4chan or something, he's like, by the way, I'm going to get this guy fucking killed. And I'm going to do whatever I can to get him killed. I'm going to start by swatting him. I hope they shoot him. Then you're looking at intent. You're like 5 to 10 years. Then you were hoping he dies and hoping that this was the result of this. You can't guarantee. So they still can't go with a maximum sentence because you can't guarantee that would be the outcome. But if his intent was, and they proved just to fuck with him, scare him, and this was the result, it's still got to be less than manslaughter because, again, there was no direct intent of death, but it should have probably been 2 to 4 years.
This just seems.
Now, to be honest, like the kind of person, like the kind of people that get involved in this, these are not tough, hardcore people. They hide behind their keyboard and do whatever they're doing. 15 months could be a lifetime for this guy. Like there are people that have gone in for less than this, like jaywalking while smoking a joint, and died in prison because they couldn't handle it. So this could end up being a death sentence for him.
Well, he's not even gone to federal prison. He'll go to county because this.
Oh, he's not. Okay, then this is not harsh enough. He should have done 15 months in a penitentiary.
Yeah, because I think if I am right, if I am wrong, please correct me. I think if you are 2 years less a day, it's county jail. If it's anything more than that, it becomes a federal or state crime. I'm actually just going to look at my wife, Blair.
And it's different here.
Shut up. If you are charged with a crime, if it's more than 2 years, you go to a more severe jail, correct? Yeah, we think so, because Blair is my law expert. So
well, and I was going to say it's a little different in Canada too. We don't have state and federal prisons. It's like
provincial and federal.
Even then, it's not even that. Here, it's more like you have just different levels. It's like minimum security, medium security, max security. And they're all run by the same people. So it depends on the crime you did. If it's like white collar crime, tax evasion, blah blah blah. You'll go to a minimum security, and half of those ones you can like leave like on the weekends to go home, like because it's so minimum security. Like you're not a flight risk. It's like here you're getting a slap on the wrist. You're having to spend time in jail. Then you got the medium security ones, which would be for stuff like this, and then you got your Kingstons and your I forget the name of the one that in Quebec where they hold like Bernardo and those people, like the serial killers and stuff. But like we don't have the same exact system. So yeah, you're probably right. Like in the States, it's all going to be like state by state basis. Like what state was this done in?
Ohio. Okay,
so if it was Texas, it would have been hung. Like, it would have been like hang him. Okay, so yeah, like it's he should have got a more severe sentence. But again, this is such a bad mark on his life that it could eventually basically this ruins his life too. So there's the loss of life that was caused by his swatting, and his life is over because try getting a job after being a convicted felon nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. So to hell with you, kid. You got somebody killed. Moving on to something radically different on the other end of the spectrum. Let's bring things around to a little bit happier news. And I really should have thought this news lineup before I did this.
You know what? We'll just go off the cuff. We'll just keep doing it.
Going off the cuff. So we're going to talk about My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. I know, what a transition.
Oh, the horror.
So the show is set to end next month after 221 episodes and 9 years. The series finale will air as a 90-minute supersized episode on Saturday, October 12th. So just before Thanksgiving in Canada, I want to say. And then they're going to show an in-depth behind-the-scenes look at the series on Friday, October 11th at 5 o'clock, which is called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, A Decade of Pony. Though, I'd be curious to know if they got the people involved in the Bronies documentary that Q was a part of. Help me figure out, what was Q's real name? John Delancey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't
John
he play,
Delancey.
what was his Discord or something? Again, I'm not a brony, but I did really like the Derpy Who's thing, and I was even more delighted with how much backlash that got. I loved that a show about ponies got that kind of distress within its own community over something as silly as just a derpy character.
And people love Derpy Hooves or Dipsy Doo, whatever she's called.
I'm hoping that they put a bit of a Derpy in the background of whatever the final episode is.
Oh, she will. I'm kind of hoping if they do a gag with this, I'm hoping they have the TARDIS show up, her and Dr. Hooves take off to have adventures elsewhere. That's what I'm hoping, because that's always the ship she's always put in.
Okay, so you have that, and then have maybe have a dream sequence where it turns into the 1980s pony cartoon with that design. They have done that. Okay,
they did that, and Pinkie Pie screamed. It was amazing.
And you know what? I know it's not connected, so it won't happen. But there have been ponies and unicorns recurring in the new DuckTales show that are very My Little Pony-esque on purpose. It would have been cool if they had some sort of crossover, or like how great would it be if Rick and Morty showed up in the background?
I want to say there was a connection,
like traveled through a portal, like in the background, like the Doctor Who
TARDIS.
Like the TARDIS shows up, they go into the TARDIS, and they just hear Rick. It's like, where are we now?
So, beginning on October 6th at 6 a.m., you can marathon the entire series all day leading up to the final episode. This is a show, 9 years, 221 episodes. That's an accomplishment.
It's way more than like any other. It's Hasbro, right?
Yeah. Like, I'm surprised
that's got to be the longest running Hasbro property ever. Like, Transformers has had broken up series, and there might be that many episodes in G1 because they had the crazy long 65. Yeah, no, they wouldn't. There's only 3 seasons, so it would have been like 100 and some odd.
Not even. I want to say it's like 80 something.
Well, they did
it's not that long.
Didn't they do like 70 episodes in season 2? Like, because it aired like 5 days a week.
I don't know.
And then season 3 is like 22 episodes. So it's like maybe 100 and something. So this is by far their longest running property. Like, it outlived their entire television channel that it was created for.
The Hub, yeah, it outlived that. It's on Discovery Family Channel.
Yeah, so
and
like
just
it's kind of amazing. I'm not a fan. I'm not a brony. Like, not because I don't want to be. It's just not my jam. I tried watching, but it's kind of amazing how long it's lasted as a kids show that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, it shows what should be designed to sell toys was taken a little bit more seriously to be a creative storytelling vehicle. And that's why I became a fan of it, because it wasn't just to sell toys. And I watched that develop over the course of the series. Like, I have a My Little Pony tattoo on my left arm.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of that comes close are the adult-oriented shows, and not like adult as in like adult content, but like the Adventure Time, where kids can watch it, but adults get more out of it than kids do. That lasted a long time. Or your like Futuramas, that sort of thing. It seems to not be like the target audience of, under like 7 to 11-year-old girls is. I think the only reason this survived is because they had the weird phenomenon of having the ages of 18 to 30 men watching it.
I don't know, because like looking at the attendance of, say, BronyCon and other big conventions like that, it hit every possible demographic. Plus, there were cottage industries popped up around this. Like the amount of pony stuff that shows up on Etsy and on eBay, on Amazon, it's amazing to think how huge that still is.
Yeah, and then what I was thinking was, can you think of any other show that would have brought like fathers and daughters together to watch? Like, you have bronies that watch with their little daughters, and they could have been watching now for the better part of a decade, where their kids are now in college.
Yeah, like I remember, I think there's a story Patton Oswalt told on one of his like comedy specials, how he grew up with ponies and his daughter, and he knows all the characters and all their elements and everything like that.
And you wouldn't think that, because it's again, it's got enough of the content to keep adults satisfied, but the kids are still going to love it. So this could be like, back in the day where we would grow up watching The Simpsons with our family, and people take it for granted now. Like, people don't really watch The Simpsons as much, but like, you remember it was like every week your family would sit down and watch, even though it was a cartoon, you might watch The Simpsons every single week for the better part of 20 years. So this is, the closest we're going to get to that, especially for something that was designed primarily at, little preteen girls.
Yeah, and it's also spun off into other series. There's the Equestria Girls stuff, which still has theatrical movies, though they're only in there for like a couple of days. I think Shout Factory still has the license to that.
Probably.
I wonder what they're going to do now that Hasbro has the E1 distribution deal.
Yeah, like, could they make a live action pony movie?
I don't think that would work. However, I don't know. I think the pony movie underperformed.
It did.
I don't think it did great numbers.
It didn't do great. It did way better than Gem, but it didn't do. You know what they could do if they were to do another one? They could continue it on with direct to video movies or direct to streaming. Have a Doctor Who's entire direct to video movie or movie franchise.
Take my money, instant day one buy.
Because I guarantee if they do go forward with making continuations in the form of TV movies, like a la the Scooby-Doo thing, they could go with Doctor Who's. In fact, they could do crossovers with other Hasbro properties that way, and this could be their version of like Land Before Time or Scooby-Doo.
Well, they still do the Equestria Girls ones, though I think there was one last year, but I'm not sure. I haven't watched the last 2 or 3 of them. But there is potential. The comic books by IDW, is it no? Yeah, it's
IDW does most of those. So
it's them or Boom. I can't remember which.
It's probably not Boom, because IDW has Transformers.
Yeah, so it's IDW then.
And then there's the tabletop game. Did we end up playing that? No, we didn't actually end up playing it.
I have the book, but that game is remarkably well designed, and it's only D6s. And that game is still getting supported today.
So maybe when it ends, we should play it for fun.
I can only imagine you in Equestria, Alex. Holy shit, I can only imagine.
It would be decadent and disturbingly sexualized in a weird way. Like, I would go full furry in it, like beyond anything that I would ever be comfortable with.
On that note,
rub my fur. Or they have
In
hair.
other
So yeah, I'm confused. I'll have to learn more about ponies before I make them really sexualized.
I'm moving on now.
Yes.
In other news, this is a pretty big discovery, but water has been found for the first time on a potentially habitable planet. The world, which is called K2-18b, is a plausible candidate in the search for alien life. Within 10 years, new space telescopes might be able to determine whether K2-18b's atmosphere contains gases that are produced by living or organisms. The lead scientist, Professor Giovanna Tinetti of University College London, described the discovery as mind-blowing. This is the first time that we have detected water on a planet in the habitable zone around a star where the temperature is potentially compatible with the presence of life. The new planet is twice the size of Earth in a planetary category known as a super-Earth, and has a temperature cool enough to have liquid water between 0 and 40 degrees centigrade. So yeah, this is kind of cool. So this planet is about 111 light years away, so about 650 million miles. So we're not sending a probe there anytime friggin' soon. But the fact that we are able to detect what's in the atmosphere, like we can detect the molecular signature of water, that's pretty big.
Oh, absolutely. It's, we as kids always thought like we'd have these grand discoveries that would be sweeping and immediate. But, now that we're adults, we realize that even these tiny
Science
little
is slow.
discoveries. Yeah, like science is so slow that like when they're talking about, I saw an article on dementia, and they're like, in 5 years we should be able to detect what starts it, and it's like, oh, like, so you have no way of detecting these things until after people are already dead now. But it's like, oh, in 5 years we can do this, and we're hoping that in the next 20 years that a next generation of scientists will be able to solve it. It's like, oh, science works in generations, not even in years.
Absolutely, because the technology and our understanding of the science itself has to evolve with what we're discovering. So
a scientist like this discovery or what's going on here could be, for these particular people, the crowning achievement of their career. And as a kid, you would have been like, that's lame. But for them, it's like they found something. They actually did something that can be used in the future.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, I can't remember where they're building it, but they've just prototyped the first mirrors for this giant telescope. And I'm talking, this thing has, I can't remember, I think its mirror base is like 80 meters. So it's the largest it's going to be the largest telescope on Earth. I think it's supposed to be finished in 2024.
It's going to look like Megatron's gun, probably. Just this giant black. You know what? It'll make us look like, you'll probably be able to see it from space. Like it'll reflect, like, whatever you're looking at it.
I think it's in China, I want to say, or it's in a desert somewhere. I can't remember where.
China's working on one. There's one in Brazil they're working on, and there's a third one. It might be the China one, because they're all sort of racing to get like, China's trying to do this. Yes, it's to better off science, but a lot of it is to show, look what we did first. We made the best, biggest thing first. And you know what? In this case, where, normally I'd be like, stop making it political, I'm like, go ahead, make science better.
Absolutely.
If this is going to light a fire under your ass, because look, we didn't go to the moon because people wanted to go to the moon for fun. They went to the moon because they wanted to. They were in an arms race.
Yeah, it was a dick waving contest.
Exactly. And what did we get out of it? We got human space travel. As limited as it is, we got it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool just to see what's going on. I know India and China have had things on the moon recently. I think China discovered a weird gel-like substance on the moon. Recently, I just found out there's earthquake activity on the moon, like called moonquakes. So science is interesting, people. Let's focus a little less
Moonquake
on the Kardashians.
Is the name of my punk rock psychedelic band.
But yeah, so there's something a little bit science-y for you. Hopefully we'll continue to find out more as the months and years go on. This story makes me happy. I've been watching the Pokemon anime for years. In fact, the Pokemon anime is old enough to drink now. And for decades, Ash Ketchum has got his ass kicked. In the Kanto region, where the series first starts out, he finished in the top 16. He made it the top 8 in Johto, and mostly he finishes in the top 8 to 4. However, he finally did it. He's the Aloha region's current reigning champ. So, after 21 years, Ash finally won something, which is kind of amazing, with a fucking funny, Pikachu.
What the best part is that Ash is like my age. He's like 32, but he still is perpetually 9 years old and never winning. And that's the other thing, too.
10. He's 10.
Oh, he's 10, sorry. But I always find it funny when it's like, the biggest gripe my parents had when that game came out in the TV show, they're like, where are his parents? Why is he walking around homeless alone across the country fighting monsters as like a 9-year-old? Like, that's so careless. And I was like, as a kid, I'm like, but he's cool. And as an adult now, I'm like, hey, where the hell are his parents? What does he not ever have to go to school?
I can actually answer this question. Ash's mom still lives at home in Pallet Town. He occasionally does call during the show. Ash's dad is never discussed. There is a fan theory that Professor Oak is Ash's dad and sends him out on his Pokemon journey.
He laid the pipe down to his mom and didn't tell him. Laid the oak tree. Or is he Giovanni, the mobster?
There was another weird theory I saw about that, too. One of the coolest things I've seen come out of the Pokemon community, and it actually came out of one of those little kid books, was the origin of Jessie and James. And Jessie wanted to be a Pokemon nurse or something, but Giovanni recruited her parents really, really early, and they got hurt. So Giovanni took Jessie and James in the Team Rocket. I wish I could remember where I saw this.
That's why they're idiots and can't actually do anything because they weren't really trained.
Well, that's why they're so loyal to Giovanni and Team Rocket, because he gave them a home. Like, it was really weird, and there's enough evidence in the anime that supports it. It was weird. I wish I could remember where the hell I read this. If you know what I'm talking about, Mike at ThisWeekInGeek.net or at Birdman on Twitter, because I know I'm not crazy. I know I read this somewhere. But I thought that was a neat little bit of world building for Pokemon. So, think that's all I got for the news this week.
I was going to say, good on Ash. It made me laugh when I saw it because I was like, it's the first time ever on film he's won.
Yeah, I mean, he's come close a few times.
Yeah, like 4th place and all this. And like, yeah, how do you keep fans? And then I realized you haven't kept fans because, like, I don't know how old you were when Pokemon debuted.
I was in high school.
I was 9. And I was the prime candidate. Like, I was the target audience of like 8 to 13. And I watched until I saw the second movie in theaters.
So Johto region, yeah.
And like Pokemon the movie 2000, I think it was called.
Yep.
And then I saw, I think, one season after that. So like, and it was sort of sporadically at that point. So I thought like the first 4 years, but it's been on 20 years.
Yeah,
so
over 1,000 episodes.
They're at the point now where it's a generational thing. It's like Power Rangers. It's like, except Power Rangers reinvents itself every year, every other year. This has been one continuous story with, some, from what I've seen, some breaks in it where they have like side stories and stuff, but it's been one continuous story for 20 some odd years. At what point is he going to be the best? Like when the manga writers die, but then I realized that I don't think the manga is written by one person like most of the manga. It's all like shadow writers that write the stories.
I'm curious to know when does Pokemon end, because Nintendo knows whenever they put out a game, it'll be successful. Children will always have that access to Pokemon.
Well, they have the advantage of not having a central writer, like I said. So it'll end when it no longer sells, which will be never. Now the manga, I don't even know if the manga and the TV show coincide with the games anymore. Because it seems like they're premiering the game. It's gone the other way around. It seems like the games are premiering and then they're making the manga and show to match the games, where it used to be the other way around. Because remember all the speculation before the new game was announced where it was going to be? This is a region that's never been shown before, they said.
Yeah.
So that means it's not in the manga. or at least not yet. So I get the feeling that they want you to play the game and then experience a broader story by watching and reading.
Now, here's my question for you. Are you going to pick up the new Pokemon?
Yes.
I'm on the fence about it.
Yeah, I'm picking up one of them. I don't know which one, but it'll be the first time I've picked up a new Pokemon game since Heart Gold. No.
But you played Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, didn't you?
Hated it. Hated every second.
Really?
It was such a dummy. It was a game for toddlers. I was so bored because I loved it. So incredibly bored because there was nothing to it. There was no challenge. There was no story. I just got so bored. I returned the game. It's one of the only times where I ever returned a game under a satisfaction guarantee and got all my money back. And it wasn't like I hated it because it was bad. I hated it because I was like, this is not for me.
Wow, I'm so sorry. But then again, I guess I played Pokemon Go, so I use a lot of the interactive features.
I never once installed that, and I thought that it was the most stupid game on the planet, the Pokemon Go. I'd like the Pokeball, but I'm so glad I didn't get the collector's edition because I would have been so mad at myself.
Wow, such vitriol.
Oh, like it was the game. It was a $20 game packaged for $80. I was like, no, like there was nothing to it, dude. It was.
I don't know. I think it was a competent remake of Red and Blue.
You could beat the game with your eyes closed. Like it was not meant for adults. It was meant for children.
Oh no, absolutely. I totally agree that it was a different type of Pokemon game that was definitely meant to be similar. Rather than focus on battling, it was more focused on catching, which I kind of liked.
Yeah.
It was casual Pokemon. That's what I liked about it.
It was like Harvest Moon made even easier, which is fine if you want a chill game. I wanted a Pokemon game, and it was clear that it was a stopgap until the new Pokemon came out. And I haven't played a Pokemon game from start to completion since the Game Boy Color. I've only played bits and pieces of ones here and there. Played like 10 minutes of one game, an hour of another, played a bit of my brother's Diamond, and I think I played a bit on the GameCube, whatever game that was spin-off. But like I haven't played a true Pokemon game in probably 15 years.
The last one I played was I think Sun and Moon.
And this has my attention. Like it looks like it's it broke their old system for Pokemon story. That's why you can't have all the characters because they broke the way that they coded it. And Game Freak has been kind of notorious for being bad coders. And this isn't like news to anybody. They're really bad at making efficient games. You know how bad Pokemon games ran on Game Boy where they would stutter and the frame rate was slow? It's pretty hard to make a frame rate on a game like that slow down when there's nothing really going on the screen. And there's entire subreddits talking about how the games are, when people have gone and looked at the source code and broken it down, they've been like, oh yeah, they're pretty inefficient. This game looks like it's built from the ground up to work well. And I'm like, oh, a Pokemon game without slowdown? Yeah, I'll try that.
I mean, the last time I sat down with one was obviously Let's Go Eevee, which made me love the Pokemon franchise again. I played Sun and Moon. I didn't get more than a couple hours into it because Pokemon, there's so many Pokemon, it's hard for me to remember everything. I know the basic rock, paper, scissors approach to it, like fire type is weak against water type, grass against fire, etc., etc. That I get. But when they started throwing in, like, here's a ghost steel type, I was like, yeah. I don't know what's happening. When they started doing, like, mating them and then doing different things, it got confusing. But, you know what, I think that Nintendo's planning on this. This is the jumping on point for a lot of people. People that are new, people that have loved it, and people that have, maybe like myself, who have been a lapsed fan for, like, the last 2 or 3 generations. Because it's the first time ever that it comes to, I mean, this is portable, but this is the first time ever that it comes to a core console and isn't a spin-off or a Coliseum game. Yeah, like, for example, when I saw some of the promotional artwork of some of the new starters, I know exactly who my starter is going to be. Score Bunny. I want the bunny. Yes. And I want to. I want to make a team that is the bunny, the sheep, a Psyduck, obviously, an Eevee, an unevolved Eevee.
Why not all Psyducks? Just all Psyducks.
Actually,
get so good at the game that you have like level 100 or whatever the max is now currently of just a Psyduck, and it just has like 2 moves. It has like psychic attack and then has like a suicide bomb.
I have on Let's Go Eevee, my Psyduck is so powerful, I can level Mewtwo in like 3 hits. But I have to get the first attack in. As long as I get the first attack, I'm good because he can't kill me. But yeah, I leveled my Psyduck nuts. Like, do you want to evolve in the Golduck? No, fuck that. I'm a Psyduck and I'm proud of it.
There's an evolution. See, this is how far back I am. There's an evolution of Psyduck.
Yeah. There's Psyduck, which is his base form. Golduck, which is his evolved form. He's often mistaken for a kaiju. And I want to say there was another form in another game, but I'm not sure.
Like, I wonder, like, maybe I should find, like, a Rata or something and just try to beat the game entirely with one of the weakest monsters or one of the weakest Pokemon.
So your team should be a Rattata, a Weedle, what the fuck is a Caterpie,
and a Magikarp that I refuse to evolve.
But make his stats insane.
Well,
and give him the highest accuracy.
Throw him out so he comes out first and immediately pull him so he gets a little bit of experience every single battle. And,
they fixed that now.
Oh, that's lame.
So now everybody evolves at the same time.
Get some.
That always pissed me off.
Oh, get some. What is it? They still have like rare candies that level them up.
Yep.
And then, so just find a way to get like 100 rare candies and have this Magikarp that only has Splash. But like enemies go to attack him and they do like 1 HP of damage.
Bow before your new god, Magikarp.
We call him Iron Carp. But yes, like, I'm interested in it. It's cool that that Ash finally did something.
Good on you, kid. So anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the news this week. But we're going to keep talking about Nintendo as Alex has a look at the newest Nintendo title, which is Daemon X Machina on the Nintendo Switch. We'll be back right after this, only on This Week in Geek on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
I had the good fortune to have Nintendo send over a early review copy of Daemon X Machina. That is the mecha battle game that we've had a demo of in the past that really sort of surprised people at E3 a little while back, or at one of the directs close to E3 is probably a better description. That on the Switch, that is sort of in a league of its own. It's a bit front mission. It's a bit a little Armored Core in that. It controls as a third-person mecha battle arena game, and it's to be honest interesting in that it's coming out at a weird time. It's sandwiched between huge releases like Astral Chain for Nintendo, and then the remade Link's Awakening, as well as the Switch Mini or Switch Lite, as well as just a lot of other releases. This is the busiest September month I can probably ever think of. Like, it's busier than October's been in the past, or Broketober. We got to think of a new name for this. So anyway, is this game any good? And this is going to be an interesting discussion because I, on a personal level, was really excited to play this game because I really liked the demo. And then at the same time, as a professional level, I was like, okay, well, this is a good game to review for everybody. What I found, though, is I'm not personally a super big fan of the story of this game. And usually I'm a big story person, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be good. It's a crazy anime mecha game. There's going to be a lot of story. There is and there isn't. So we'll get the parts that I don't care for out of the way first, because I do like the game as a whole. The parts that I don't care for are the storyline is very paint by numbers. You're in the future, the moon has fallen, and after the moon fell, disaster struck the earth, AI took over, and you're basically working for other corporations trying to take out rogue AI, and then there's a little bit twists and turns here and there. And that's all fine and good, but the issue is the dialogue and the voice acting is very difficult to get through, for me at least. They went, for whatever reason, this is developed by, it's not developed by Nintendo, it's developed by Marvelous. and they can be hit or miss depending on what their projects are. And this, you'd think for a Nintendo published property, like direct Nintendo published property, they would break out the big guns when it comes to voice acting and script writing, and it seems really rough. There's dialogue and just the actual acting that comes across as very mid-90s, really lazy, over-the-top caricatures. It doesn't make a lot of sense in the rest of the world. The world's supposed to be taken very seriously, and it's a little over the top for my taste. And just the performances seem like they're one takes, and they just kept them. So it's a little rough there, and that's what's most disappointing to me. The cutscenes are also done some with CG, but the rest of it is just like text heads that pop up and scroll like you're scrolling through a website with like forum comments, but they're voiced out. It's weird. The central part of the game is mostly a game hub that you can just interact with. You run over to one area, change your costume, upgrade your character, and they're a little inconsequential. There's another hub for multiplayer play. They're really pushing multiplayer play, which would be cool, but I couldn't, being that this was an early release, get anybody that I could connect with. But that'll be something that I can try out later on. The most disappointing thing, honestly, is when you're in your game hub world, which is basically a hangar that is sort of where you choose your missions from and everything. You can't interact with anybody. Like, there's people all around you, but they don't say anything. You bump into them, they don't do anything. There's a dog that follows you around that doesn't even, bark. You can't even pet the dog or do anything. It's odd that way. Now, the other part is you can pick up weapons off of enemies within the levels, and they don't seem to be much better than what you can buy yourself in the game. So there's some balancing issues that I have problems with, but those are nitpicks. Except for the voice acting, it's pretty egregious. It's only in stereo sound, this is a 3D arena. You would think they would have found a way to do 3D audio like most other games have, to have proper surround sound so you can tell where things are coming from. It was just a little surprising. So that's, the negative out of the way. But let's go to the positive. The positive is the gameplay's really good. So the actual controlling of your mechs, you control a right arm, left arm, shooting, a shoulder button that does ranged attacks. It was a little floaty at first, but you get used to it. Like I thought that there should be a little more weight to the characters. But we've been sort of trained on these, hardcore heavy mechs to move a certain way in previous similar titles. But this has a little more of a floaty aspect to it. That being said, once you change some of your equipment, you can customize it to the sort of weight and feel that you like, and it's pretty darn good that way. Visually, it's not the most impressive game. There are not any issues with frame rate, but there is issues with aliasing and jagged edges and stuff. And it does feel like a last generation game, something that would have been on the Wii U or even quite possibly on like the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 that they've just sort of put a bit of a sheen on. So it's not going to super impress as far as super high res visuals, but it does maintain its frame rate on the Switch with a ton of crap happening on screen at once, which is not as common as you'd expect. So that in itself is pretty cool. So it's sort of they've made the right kind of compromises to make it a smooth gameplay experience. And this is a game where you need every frame because you are frantically trying to shoot things out of the air, dodge things, target things, move around. And if you had any slowdown, it would really, really bog down the game. It works great in portable mode and in TV mode. There is no change in frame rate issues or anything. So that is awesome. So I'm pretty impressed there. There's a bit of a mission variety in this game as well. There's protecting bases, there's escort missions, there's destroy things. There are pretty gigantic scaled enemies that you can fight in it too, so there is a good variety there. If you were looking for like an open world to traverse through and everything, that's not in this game. This is a game where you select your missions from a hub. It's like you're doing this class, and the more you do, you raise to higher classes, similar to like a driving game almost. And then when you get to the higher classes, it unlocks more. There's free missions you can do to just upgrade and get better at your skills and get more weapons and items and everything. And then there's story-based missions, and those are the ones that have all the dialogue. You can pull in certain characters that you befriend in the game into battle with you, which is pretty cool. And overall, I had a pretty good experience with it. Voice acting and sound design notwithstanding. The thing is, is this a game that we really recommend that you go out and buy immediately? If you are a mecha fan, a big, or just a robot fan, shooter, third-person, arena battles, you're going to love it, and you're probably going to want to go buy it right away, and I can fully suggest that to you. If you're somebody who's on a bit of a budget, because there's a lot of games coming out from Nintendo right now, and you're like, oh, it's only been a couple weeks since Astral Chain, should I get that or this? You're going to be fine with either game that you go with. It's hard to recommend this if you're not somebody who definitely wants it right away at the full price, if you are going to be buying all these other games from Nintendo that are coming out, because there's a lot. Not everybody can afford 3 AAA releases within a month plus a brand new console. So if that's the case, if you're on the fence right now and you weren't sure, I still suggest that you go and play it and that you do buy it. Play the demo that's available, and if you really can't afford it but you really want it, there's probably going to be a deal on it come Black Friday. But for anybody else that's a big Nintendo fan and wants to get their their mecha action on, it's something you are going to want to go out and buy right away.
What makes you qualified to be a reporter? I'm willing to violate anyone's privacy for my personal gain and then claim with a straight face that the public has a right to know.
By the hand of Zeus, what manner of deviltry is this?
I love fake alien poop day.
Welcome back to Twig, the flagship of stupidity. It's now time to dive into the weird side of the internet with the strange, the fucked up, the bizarre, and boy, are we starting with strange this week. So, as you guys know, there are certain arenas that are named after sports companies, like the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Scotiabank Place in Toronto, etc., etc. Well, American Airlines has the naming rights to the Miami Heat, their arena, right? So that's the basketball team. Well, at the end of the year, those rights are set to expire. You're wondering, Mike, what does that have to do with weird news? Well, Miami-based porn production company, the Bang Brothers, were quick to announce that they have put in a $10 million bid on naming rights to claim the home of the Miami Heat. Can you just imagine this, for this to happen now at the Bang Brothers arena, or whatever the hell it's called?
It would be the Monsters of Cock, or the Monsters of Cock Arena Amphitheater, or the instead of Bang Bus, it would just be like the Bang Coliseum, or what's the other ones they got? I don't know, like
Brazzers or something.
Yeah, no, they're not. That's a different company. It would be like the Spooge Center or something.
See, I'm surprised Brazzers hasn't done this sooner.
They're not.
Actually.
They look bigger than they really are, if that makes any sense. And that isn't a pun.
Well, they've got to be bigger than Bang Brothers.
No, Pornhub, I'm surprised, hasn't bought one yet.
I know Pornhub
didn't Pornhub put in a bid to buy an entire team, not just even the like they put like $1 billion or something.
They wanted to sponsor some European soccer team or some football team, I think.
Yeah, and I had thought that there was a Canadian, because they're Canadian based. I thought they were going to try to get naming rights to an arena up here, even, which would have been like the Pornhub Center or something like that.
So people were wondering, was this just a stunt? Well, according to NBC reporter Jessica Kleinschmidt, this is real. She says, I just confirmed this is indeed a real thing. A bid was submitted. They want a nickname of the BBC. So the big black cock. That's astounding.
So they want to name, so that like the center would be like the Big Black Cock Center, or Big Black Center? Or
yeah. Now there's no chance this is ever going to go through, but only $10 million. Some other company will do it, like not American Airlines, maybe Delta, or maybe
it'll be
Staples
something
or something
stupid. It'll you know what? In this political climate, it'll be like the Chick-fil-A No Gays Allowed Arena or something stupid like that, and then it'll get challenged in court, and then it'll become the Twinkie Center or something.
Now
it'll be something strange like that.
Now, it's kind of funny. This isn't the first time that this has happened, not specifically with a porn company, but there was a bunch of marijuana dispensaries in Denver that wanted to buy the naming rights for the Broncos Mile High Center. So that's kind of funny. But still, that's kind of funny that Bang Brothers went out and did this. I mean, $10 million, it's a hell of a bargain, but it's not going to happen. Okay, so moving on to my next weird story. This one's kind of cool in the weird and creepy kind of factor. So you know how Google has Google Maps, and you can go down the street level, or you can look in satellite views, and you can see, oh, hey, there's the house where I grew up. There's my old high school. There's a guy falling downstairs, captured forever as he's falling on his face.
Or
Stuff
a friend
like
of mine's
that.
little brother who thought he was cool wearing a trench coat to school in 2006, who was permanently as part of like the trench coat mafia on Google Maps, and we make fun of him endlessly.
Can you put those coordinates somewhere? I really want to see this.
I wonder if it's been updated, because it was there for 9 years. So we'll see if it's still there. If not, I want to see if I still have a picture. It was basically him walking home from high school when I had just graduated, and he was like grade 9. And he's just like walking up the street, and they blurred his face, and he's wearing a trench coat. And I was like, I know who that is. And we mercilessly made fun of him, because it's like June. But of course, gotta look cool in a Highlander trench coat.
Well, of course, because the gathering could be at any time.
Exactly.
So the body of William Molt, a 40-year-old Florida man, was reported missing in November of 1997. So they found his body all thanks to Google Maps. A neighbor named Barry Fay called the police after a neighbor told him there was a car in the pond behind his house that could be seen from Google Maps. Fay didn't believe him, but they got one of those hobby drone things and took a picture with it, and he saw a car in the pond behind his house. So they called the cops, who pulled out the 1994 Saturn, and it had the skeleton inside. So Faye told the Sun Sentinel, I called the former owner of my house and asked if she knew about this. She was shocked. The skeleton was found at the 3700 block of Moon Bay Circle in Wellington, Florida, as part of a housing development called Grand Isles. So the gated community had been under construction at the time of the disappearance, so it was just considered a cold case. Upon arrival, deputies confirmed there was a vehicle in the pond. The vehicle's exterior was heavily calcified and was obviously in the water for a significant amount of time. Upon removing the vehicle, skeleton remains were found inside. On September 10th, 2019, the remains were positively identified as William Molt, who was reported missing on November 8th, 1997. And they don't know how this happened. They have no idea what happened to him on that night. He was last seen at a nightclub. He called his girlfriend around 9:30 that night that he was coming home. And he just never came home again.
That's creepy.
That's weird. Like I watch, there's channels on YouTube I watch, and they're about mysteries. And sometimes they talk about people who just go missing, like their cars are found, or they'll find their backpacks or clothes in the woods, but they never, or if they do find the bodies, they're like 20 years later. Like, that's fucking creepy. Like, this is in the pond behind somebody's house. And you really couldn't see this unless you had a drone, because you'd have to see it from an aerial view. Judging from the distance, it's probably no more than a couple 100 feet from this guy's pool. But you can just see it on the edge of it. You can just see this white car. That's fucking creepy, man. So anyway, now that I've got more creepy stuff for you, so we've all heard of emotional support animals, be they a dog or a cat. I've even heard of emotional support chickens. Well, a New Zealand man has just upped the ante for emotional support. So, a New Zealand man who was going to get fired brought his emotional support clown to a recent redundancy meeting. So Auckland admin Joshua Jack said he sensed the bad news when he received an email from his agency employer telling him they needed to have a meeting to discuss his role this week. It did the talk about being able to bring a support person. I thought it's either a promotion or worse. I thought it was the best to bring in a professional. So I paid $200 and hired a clown.
Sorry, in a quick update, I just double checked. Google Maps updated as of April of this year, so the photo is now gone after being there for 10 years. So I will see if I can try to track it down, but if I can, I will show you. If not, I'll show you who the person is, and then just you can piece together what it would have looked like. But yes, the support clown, like, it's like you're asking to be fired, but then again, technically, you can bring any support person you want.
So it gets stranger. So Jack did get fired in the end, but his bosses at the advertising agency were grateful he decided to spice up the meeting and could see the humor side. The clown mimed crying as Jack's employer slid the redundancy paperwork across the table and created a balloon unicorn and poodle to lighten the mood.
Okay. No, see, I thought this was a case of somebody who was mentally unwell hiring a clown. This is a case of a guy who knows he was going to get shit canned and was like, you know what? Let's make the news.
Exactly. Let's do something weird, and why not?
And better than some morons out there that stand up on a table and scream "I quit" in front of a YouTube camera.
Yeah, fuck that guy. By the way, that's my official statement on that.
Yes, there we go.
I was
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I was actually thinking, I just had a train of thought. Now it's gone. Whatever. Because
I'm a brilliant person who's going to make so much money online, and I'm never going to get involved with anything that could be brought back to hurt me in the future.
Fucking. As my wife has been saying this past couple days, what a blood queef.
Yeah.
On that note,
the whole clan.
Yeah, the whole clan of those fucking idiots. Anyway, last story this week. This brings a joy to my heart. One of the series of games I've always been interested in, but I've never tried. Things like Dream Daddy, Hotiful Boyfriend, the one where you date pigeons or YouTubers or whatever the hell it is.
You're a pigeon going on dates with humans.
Yeah, it's weird. But it's a dating simulator, and I fell in love with the dating simulator thing in Persona 5. Though the next playthrough I'm not going to romance on, I'm going to try Futaba. But that's not the point of this story. So, you've heard of restaurant chain KFC. Of course you have. Look at the size of our asses. Well, KFC is bringing their own spin on the dating simulator. So they're going to put out a game that's coming to Steam, and it's called I Love You, Colonel Sanders, a finger-licking good game.
That could be very sexual.
Oh, sorry. So I will read you the official description from Steam. I Love You, Colonel Sanders, a finger-licking good dating simulator, follows you, a promising culinary student, as you try to date your classmate, Colonel Sanders. Throughout your journey, you'll be faced with life-changing decisions that will affect your chances of friendship and love. But be careful, your choices will have real consequences with real animated characters' feelings. Do you have what it takes to survive culinary school? Will Colonel Sanders choose you to be his business partner, or maybe even much more? Find out in
Didn't
the
he
most
shoot his business partners over trying to steal his recipes?
No, but I will fill you in that.
Yes.
No, find out in the most finger-licking good dating simulator ever created, a game that KFC actually made. So this comes out on Steam on the 24th.
Oh, but not physical? It's not like those Burger King games from 10 years ago?
No, you cannot get this like Sneak King.
Or what was the other one? Big Bumpin' and... what was the other one? Sneak King, Big Bumpin', and...
There was another one, yeah.
I'm drawing a blank. Sneak King was the one everybody remembered because it was so stupid.
But it was so weird. I think this is actually kind of a clever bit of marketing. The last bit of marketing that I can remember that KFC did that really stuck with me was they published a novella, and it was called The Tender Wings of Desire.
What?
Yeah, where basically the woman, I think it was like Lady Antoine, she doesn't explicitly fuck the Colonel, but she fucks the Colonel if you can read between the lines.
Was it free or was it you have to buy it in stores?
I think you could buy it on like Amazon or you could download it. Either way, it's not hard to find. If you type in KFC novel, you'll find it.
You know what? Oh man, I was just thinking of a joke I heard in the 5th grade.
What?
Okay, I'm gonna say it.
Dare I ask?
I remember some 6th graders saying it on the school grounds. 6th or 7th graders. and it was it girlfriends like KFC. Once you're done with the thigh, breasts, and legs, all you got is a greasy box to put your bone in.
Oh boy, that's a lot more clever than I thought it was going to be.
Yes, it was definitely from high school kids that related to their younger siblings, who then related to us in the 5th grade.
You know, I'd like to know what Colonel Harlan Sanders would think. He's been dead since 1980, I believe.
He was an incredibly bigoted and dumb man. he was a figurehead, basically, more than anything.
Well, it's funny because he sold the chicken franchise, I think, in the early 1960s for equivalent to $16 million now in real dollars. So he got fucked. He's been quoted as saying their food is garbage. Particularly their gravy was calling it wallpaper paste. And he's like, boy, I know wallpaper paste because my mama used to make it. And he's an interesting fellow. But it's kind of funny how many people have portrayed the Colonel over the years if you look at his likeness. I can remember when...
Especially in the last couple of years with the WWE doing tons too.
Yeah, there's been Dolph Ziggler, RoboCop has played him.
Shawn Michaels, a bunch of other people.
I also remember at one point when he was voiced by Randy Quaid in the 90s. So yeah, that's a thing. And that is the weird news. So when you're going to Bang Brothers Arena in Miami and you got your bucket of KFC chicken, go watch the Miami Heat, and you can go home and you can go fuck Colonel Sanders and hope you don't end up in a pond somewhere in Florida. Just hope it doesn't happen to you.
Indeed.
Anyway, we're going to take things off in a different direction as we wrap the show up this week. And this is Alex's review of NASCAR Heat 4 on the Xbox One. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on TWIG, the flagship of stupidity.
Everyone knows by now that I'm pretty into racing games, whether they be arcade or simulation ones. I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore pro racing gamer, but I do enjoy a decent, fun experience when it comes to these. And it's been a while since I had a chance to try out one of the NASCAR games. The classic joke of, I just like to turn left. I just like to turn left. Like Ricky Bobby stuff. And you know what? This is still just a fun series. They've had some graphical improvements, sort of tweaks from last year's edition. There's nothing, revolutionary that changed here. It's just they're refining it and making it better and better, similar to how other racing franchises do when they have a yearly release or every other year. It's sort of incrementally getting better and better, and that's the case here. The visuals on my Xbox look pretty darn good. It doesn't look like top tier, we spent hundreds of millions of dollars developing this, because they didn't. This is a A-list title, not a super crazy high-end AAA title, so don't go into it expecting the same level, but expect the same level or better of action and just fun gameplay. That's how I look at it when I go into racing games, is fun. It doesn't have to be the best visual thing, because I've seen other reviewers talk about how it's like it's only incrementally better. It's like, well, for a lot of people, this might be their first NASCAR game, or the first in a very long time, like it is with me, and I'm perfectly happy with it. I think it's a good bet. It's not changing the wheel for that matter. It's enjoyable. It has good audio design. It has good licensed characters and cars and tracks and everything. So this is an official game. So that's always good. Now, here's sort of a breakdown of the game. It works, in my mind, best on my Xbox One X. You can play it on your PS4 Pro or PC. I can't, vouch for how it plays on a regular Xbox, but I don't suspect it would be, making the system struggle too hard or anything. So that's good. As far as when you buy the game retail, one interesting thing is you get a $50 NASCAR ticket offer. So basically you get $50 off the purchase of a NASCAR race ticket on any track owned by the NASCAR Corporation, or SMI owned. So that's Atlanta, Bristol, Charlotte, Kentucky, Vegas, New Hampshire, and Texas. you can, or also the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So you can get $50. It comes with a little voucher in there. You get $50 off, purchase, which is pretty cool. It's like back in the day when you buy like a Ninja Turtles game and get, a free pizza or something like that. So that's kind of neat. And if you buy it digitally, there's a way to redeem it as well. You just go to their website, show proof of purchase, blah, blah, blah. And it would be the kind of thing where when you purchase the game, it has an offer and shows you right there. So that's always cool when they, offer something like that, because then you get extra value. So if you play the game and you like it, you can then just go and actually watch it, live. Now, in this game, there are 38 tracks that you can play in the game, which is pretty cool. There are 9 dirt tracks, meaning ones that aren't like, the official on the race motor speedway tracks. There are, tons of split screen multiplayer, which is, I'm happy to say, is back in this game, because a lot of racing games have removed, split screen local play, and you can only do it online or not at all. And this is a game that is fun to play, with 2 people sitting in the same room. So now you can also use racing wheels and other accessories. There's a list of them that they have, but for the most part, if it's an official accessory supported by PlayStation or Xbox, it's going to work with those respective systems. Now, there's different AI and difficulty settings, which is always good, because I hate a game that just has one set difficulty and it's too hard for everybody. You can set it to however you want, so you can play it with your kids, or in my case, if you're bad, you can play it like me on an easier setting. Now, there are tons of little nuances you can do here. There's a full career mode, which I greatly enjoyed playing. So overall, it's one of the better racing titles that I've played that sort of captures the balance between arcade and simulation. And it's going to be worth checking out. There isn't a demo, so if you're unsure of this, watch a few gameplay videos to get an idea for it on YouTube, and then make your decision from there.
And that's the kind of show it has been this week on TWIG. As always, we do thank you for participating with us, be it online, via email, or I've even had somebody catch me on the street recently, like, "Hey, you're Birdman. I follow you on Twitter." So that was unexpected outside the doctor's office a couple of weeks ago, so thank you, Jonathan. So yeah, what do we got coming up? So for next week, I'm working on Gears of War 5. I just have to finish the campaign. I've played enough multiplayer. I just need to play Escape and Horde mode, though. Escape is the new mode. Horde is the same as it's always ever been. I also have some D&D type stuff. I think it's called Descent into Avernus, which is the new book, which launches, I think, tomorrow? So I can talk about that. Basically, you go to hell and have Mad Max-style vehicles powered by souls of dead people in hell. So you too can be all glorious and chrome. Also coming up, I was talking with Alex about this off air. If I can, I will try and get a review of the KFC game, because I think that'd be kind of fun.
You've also got, was it a dodgeball game? And
I still need to redeem the code for that.
Yes.
Oh, and Telltale's...
Yeah.
And Telltale's The Walking Dead, the complete series, which I played the first 2 and completed them, but I never did finish In Too Deep with Michonne and episodes 3 and 4. So I'm going to go through the entire experience.
It'll be a big blast for you to go through, because I know you're a big fan of the series.
Oh, I love The Walking Dead, especially the games. Telltale's best work was in those games. Plus, if you don't cry at the end of the first game with Clementine's decision, there's something wrong with you. So anyway, Alex, what have we got coming up from you?
From my end, I'm working on Greedfall, the new game from Spiders. You would know them from like Technomancer. They're sort of like, they've always been viewed as like BioWare Light from France, and this is their biggest new IP. So I'm working on that on Xbox. There's also what else do I have here? Devil's Hunt, which is a PC game, and that's it until more stuff comes in. Thursday I'm getting the Genesis Mini. Didn't get a review unit, but I ordered it from Amazon. It's getting same day delivery, so that'll be coming in. There's some stuff coming probably in the mail soon as well. But this Wednesday, I'm actually going to a press event for Roku, the streaming company. So I'll be reporting on what's going on there with their upcoming products, and I'll know more after that event. So I'll talk about it on the show. And then on Saturday, I will be making a trip out to Justin's place, Terrible Warriors, to record a live game with the creator. And there's going to be more stuff coming from like Terrible Warriors Gamers Chronicles that I'll be working on too.
So yeah, this weekend, for example, I will be hosting the Nerd to the Third Powers D&D group, which they'll be posting episodes, I'm sure, during their off season. So be on the lookout for that. And their 10-year anniversary is coming up in about 2 weeks' time. So be sure I'll be talking about that and the history of podcasting as a whole on there. And then we got some pretty cool shows lined up for them leading into the month of October. So until next time, guys, as always, if you want to interact with the show, at This Week in Geek is the main account, which me and Alex both take a listen to. You can find me at BirdmanDodd on Facebook and Twitter. Mike at ThisWeekInGeek.net. Alex, your social media is?
Deathface Twig. That's for Twitter. Alex at ThisWeekInGeek. Don't forget, there's also the feedback at This Week in Geek email. There's plenty of ways to contact us.
Yeah, so hope you guys have a fantastic week, and hopefully the news is better for me and my family as we head into the great unknown. So until next time, guys, live free or die hard. And as my friend Jackie Bam Bam might say, be cool, be kind, be careful. We'll catch you guys next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Well, that's our show. All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at thisweekingeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at thisweekingeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens. What? It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.